Welcome back. Today we are going to be reviewing Chapter 4, An Animal Farm. And by now you should have already read Chapter 4, and you also should have completed the questions for Chapter 4 that are posted in our Google Classroom. In Chapter 4, we're going to be focusing on some literary terms. We're going to be focusing on allusion, situational irony, and symbolism. We're going to go over some plot events, and we're also going to dig deeper into some passages in Chapter 4. Today, we're going to be digging deeper while focusing on allegory. So, for your literary terms, allusion, again, allusion is not new. We've focused on allusion many times this school year in Romeo and Juliet, in the Scarlet Ibis. And just to refresh your memory, an allusion is a reference. It's when an unrelated text is referred to indirectly. Allusions are primarily historical, biblical, Shakespearean, or mythological. And we do have an allusion in Chapter 4. Snowball, well, it's stated that Snowball studied an old book of Julius Caesar's campaigns. Julius Caesar is a very well-known historical figure. He was a Roman statesman. He was also a very well-known military general, and he was an excellent strategist and tactician. Julius Caesar was assassinated in Senate. Some fellow senators turned on him, including his very good friend, and it was in a tussle for power and control of the Roman Senate. And I'm sure no irony is missed here. We're going to now keep our fingers on the pulse of the story to see if the same fate befalls Snowball. But that is your allusion to history, to Julius Caesar, and it's surely no coincidence that it's there. We have situational irony, which again is not new. Situational irony is the opposite outcome as what you would expect, right? So it's situationally ironic that the animals once again defeat the humans. One would imagine that humans, with their weaponry and with their their thinking skills, their critical thinking abilities, would easily be able to reclaim a farm from a gaggle of animals, but it does not happen. And lastly, we have symbolism, which also is nothing new. You know what symbolism is. Symbolism is when an object that is capable of being independent and standing by itself and representing itself takes on a second, deeper, more meaningful status. It represents something beyond itself. So the gun, which functions as a gun, becomes a symbol when it is planted at the foot of the flagpole. It now represents the animal's victory in this battle and their continued independence and freedom and liberty. And the gun is going to be shot twice a year in celebration of their victory. And in this battle, the Battle of the Cowshed, as well as the Summer Rebellion. The events in Chapter 4. We start off Chapter 4 with echoes of the actual historical Russian Civil War, where there was lots of infighting in the historical Russian Civil War. The Bolsheviks, referred to as the Reds, the communists, were engaged in civil war with the White Russians. And the White Russians really wanted to keep things status quo. They wanted to maintain the monarchy and the system that was already in place. And this is not unlike the humans and the animals in Chapter 4. We have so much propaganda. In the beginning of the chapter, Jones and two other humans, Pilkington and Frederick, are drinking at the local tavern, and they're talking about the events that are happening on Animal Farm, which they refuse to call it by its new name, Animal Farm. They keep referencing Manor Farm, which was the name of Jones's farm. But they're propagating lies. They think that the animals are starving, that they're practicing cannibalism, that it's nothing but fighting amongst themselves, when in fact we know that things are going remarkably swimmingly well on the farm, that they've had a wildly successful harvest, that the animals are in unison, that they're collaboratively working together for the good of the farm, that nobody is practicing cannibalism because that would just be crazy. And they're certainly not starving to death. But the humans are afraid. They're afraid and they're propagating these lies because the same thing could happen on their farms. You know, if their animals got word of how successful this rebellion and subsequent overthrow of the farm was, they might be tempted to carry it out on their own farms. So, what the humans are saying is happening is not actually happening. We have to separate the truth from the lies. We have Snowball, who is, he's prepared for when the humans come back. Like Julius Caesar, he is the tactician, he is the strategist, he is planning um, protection. He's thinking ahead. He's prepared for a battle, for the return, and he's prepared to, you know, to get that victory, to keep the farm in their possession. So the return of the humans is not unexpected. They've been preparing, planning for this moment, and Snowball is at the helm of this defense. Speaking of the battle, which is going to be referred to as the Battle of the Cowshed, which I'll get to in phase 3, it happens in 3 waves. The first phase, when the humans show up, is actually pretty comical. So all the winged creatures, the birds, the geese, they're the front line. They are the first phase of Snowball's strategy. When the humans arrive, the pigeons fly overhead and drop gifts onto the humans. And the geese run out and bite at their ankles. So it wasn't intended to deter them, just to slow them down a little bit. And they achieved phase 1. The second phase of Snowball's battle strategy involves Muriel, who is a goat, and Benjamin the donkey, and all the sheep, and Snowball. And they charge head on at the humans and they headbutt them. And again, this slows them down, but it doesn't completely drive them away. And that is the plan. So we're successful still, 2 phases. We've achieved it. Now for why the battle is called the Battle of the Cowshed. So in the barn, in the shed that houses the cows, literally, we have the horses, the cows, and the pigs. And they're going to rush out and attack the humans from behind. So head on, you have the sheep and Benjamin and Muriel and Snowball, who is charging right at Jones. And from behind, you have large creatures like horses, cows, and pigs. And all 3 could be vicious in their own capacity. And the humans are just surrounded. They can't win this. And they achieve victory. And again, it's called the Battle of the Cowshed because the third phase, the one that seals the deal, involves these creatures, the large creatures, hiding in the cowshed and sneak attacking from behind. So Farmer Jones is the one who brought the gun to this battle, and Snowball charges head on at him and bites at him. And Jones takes his gun and he shoots it, and a bullet grazes Snowball's back and, in fact, continues going and kills a sheep. So we have 1 casualty in this battle, and it is a sheep. And Snowball, who was so brave, is injured in this battle. The men retreated again. because they realize that they cannot win. The animals have outmaneuvered and outsmarted them. Boxer's character is truly revealed in this chapter. Boxer squared up with a stable boy and knocked him unconscious with his hoof. And Boxer thinks he killed him. He doesn't know that he's just knocked out, and he is very distraught. He is very upset. Boxer has not lost his humanity. How fascinating that a horse has more humanity than the humans in this story. But Boxer still has empathy and compassion and concern, and he does not want to take a life, even if it's the life of an enemy. He's just a real genuine, loving, feeling creature. And that is why Boxer is becoming our favorite character in the book. He's just a really good character. His nature is pure. And of course, yet again, Molly has disappeared right after the bullet was shot, the gun was shot, she took off, and she's hiding. Molly is proving to be very unreliable, and she's becoming a liability. She's a risk. We can't really trust Molly. You know, she's the one who's so heavily favored by the human beings. She was Mr. Jones's special pony, and she got ribbons and sugar cubes, and she had a very privileged relationship with humans, and she misses her privilege. So she's not trustworthy. We need to keep an eye on her. Post battle, there's a celebration. The flag flies high over Animal Farm. It is still theirs. Victory again. Uh, the song Beasts of England is sung many times. The sheep who was the casualty of the battle is buried. And Snowball tells everyone that they all need to be prepared at all times to die for Animal Farm. You know, it's theirs to protect and to defend, and if it requires laying down their life for their land, they're going to have to be able and ready to do that. Some awards are given post battle. We have 2 awards now. There's Animal Hero First Class and Animal Hero Second Class. So Animal Hero First Class is an award given to the bravest in this battle. So Snowball and Boxer are the recipients of this award. Animal Hero Second Class is an award posthumously conferred on the dead sheep. So that means that the sheep is getting this award when they're no longer living, which is what posthumously means. The gun from Farmer Jones is turned into a symbol. It is propped up at the foot of the flagpole. The intention now is to fire it in celebration twice a year. First will be October 12th, which is the Battle of the Cowshed, the battle that we just had. And the second time it'll be fired will be midsummer for the anniversary of the Summer Rebellion, which is from chapter 2, the unintentional rebellion, when the animals were neglected, they weren't fed, the cows needed milked, and they took matters into their own hands and chased off the humans. So your questions from chapter 4, we're going to go over some of those and answer them. First, what rumors are being spread about Animal Farm? Again, that the animals are starving, that they're fighting viciously amongst themselves, that they can't get organized, and that they are practicing cannibalism. It's also mentioned humorously in this chapter that the animals have their females in common. I'm not going to expand upon that, but that is part of the rumors that are circulating. Another question, why did Molly keep disappearing? Again, she is untrustworthy. She is one of the animals that had the most privilege conferred upon her by the humans. She's used to interacting and being favored by the humans with her special treats and her ribbons and her sugar. And she didn't suffer nearly as bad as the other animals. So she's not fully committed to the cause of Animal Farm. And I wouldn't be surprised if she takes off and abandons Animal Farm, which we'll see. Could happen, might not happen. Why do Pilkington and Frederick try to prevent a rebellion on their own farms? Because they would lose their farms. They're very concerned with their own farms remaining in their control, and for them to be successful, and for them to flourish, and for them to have dominion over all the animals. What's with the song Beast of England? All right, so I keep getting this question, and I want you to think of it this way. So at the Olympics, when someone wins, they play the national anthem. Or at a big moment in our country, before a sports game, at a celebration, we play the national anthem. And it's to bring us all together and to represent our country and our sentiment. And Beast of England is like their national anthem for their farm. Obviously, they're not a nation, but they feel like they are, and for all intents and purposes, they are. So anytime something momentous or important happens, they celebrate with the song because it's inspiring and it matters to them. And lastly, I don't know if you can see it here, but tucked under my face is the question, why is it called the Battle of the Cowshed? And again, it's because that third phase of attack where the horses, the cows, and the pigs were hiding in the cowshed, and they had that sneak attack from the rear, which sealed the deal for them to get the victory. And the humans were outmatched and outnumbered. So again, these are great questions. Please keep submitting these great questions. And I told you we're going to be digging deeper into chapter 4, which we are about to. We're focusing on allegory today. And I kind of touched on it already, but the allegory in this portion is specifically the Russian Civil War. In the previous chapters, the Summer Rebellion, that was a direct reference and allegory of the Bolshevik Revolution. Now, this is an echo, an allegory of the Russian Civil War. So, the Bolsheviks are the Communist Party that chased out Tsar Nicholas II, and they took over. And we still have a faction of Russians who are very loyal to the monarchy and who want to keep things as status quo as possible with the czar in control and that history and that setup. And there's infighting among them. Obviously, the Bolsheviks won that civil war, but it was a civil war nonetheless. So there were other countries that were very interested in what was happening in Russia at that time during the Russian Civil War. And they're represented through the two other humans in this chapter. Pilkington, who is a representative of all capitalism and England. And they're very, very curious at what's happening in Russia because when a revolution is happening, it could inspire other revolutions elsewhere. So these countries don't necessarily want that to happen for them historically. And Frederick is representative of Germany. And I know that all that was happening in Germany before and during and after World War II. So that is why it's an allegory, because it's a retelling, it's a echoing of true history. So the early chapters were the Bolshevik Revolution, and this current chapter, chapter 4, was the Russian Civil War. And we know that we have a lot more to go because we still haven't met our Stalin representative or some other key players. I want to go over some of the questions that I posted for chapter 4. So, this is your worksheet that was assigned to you today. And some of you said that it's worded confusingly. So, I want to kind of go over that and help you make sense of what you're being asked to do. Number 1 in the question set for chapter 4, you are evaluating, right? We kind of glossed over in this lesson the lies that the humans were propagating and spreading about what was happening on Animal Farm, but we know the truth of what's happening on the farm. So I've listed for you the 3 lies that they're spreading. The first is that the animals were perpetually fighting among themselves. The second is that the animals are rapidly starving to death. And the third is that the animals are practicing cannibalism, not capitalism, cannibalism. And what I want you to do is next to each one, I want you to give me the true, real version of what's actually happening on the farm. So, for example, the animals are rapidly starving to death. That's the second one down. What is really happening? What do you know about how successful the harvest was? And is there food? So, tell me the truth in the blue section. Number 2, you are going to evaluate. There's a statement. You're going to acknowledge whether it's true or false. The statement is that the animals were caught off guard by the return of Jones and his men. That's asking you, were they prepared for the return of the humans or were they unprepared? And you're asked to provide evidence, a sentence directly from the story, as well as the author's last name and a page number in your citation. Number 3, I need a name. Who is in charge of preparation and battle strategy for these animals on Animal Farm? Who is the character that is reading books on Julius Caesar and studying his campaigns? Number 4, we're going to summarize the phases of the battle, the phases of attack, who did what in each phase. So there's the first phase, which if you watch this again, we go over it. There's the second phase, and there's the final phase when, certain characters came out of a cowshed and rallied from behind, and it was a sneak attack upon the humans. So I just want a summary, who did what in each phase. Number 5, who is the first and only casualty in this battle? There's not going to be a specific name. Rather, it's a type of creature that was the casualty in this battle. And number 6, we have a passage. It says, all the men were gone except one. Back in the yard, Boxer was pawing with his hoof at the stable lad who lay face down in the mud, trying to turn him over. The boy did not stir. He's dead, said Boxer sorrowfully. I had no intention of doing that. I forgot I was wearing iron shoes. Who will believe that I did not do this on purpose? No sentimentality, comrade, cried Snowball, from whose wounds the blood was still dripping. War is war. The only good human is a dead one. I have no wish to take a life, not even a human life, repeated Boxer, and his eyes were full of tears. So your question, does Boxer demonstrate empathy and remorse? And most importantly, how do you know he's empathetic and remorseful? What is he doing or saying or showing that lets you know whether he is or is not empathetic and remorseful? Number 7, you're going to identify the battle in this chapter will be known as what? What will be the official name of this battle? I need a direct quote and a citation with evidence from the chapter of what the name of this battle will henceforth be called. And last but not least, what will the gun be used for now? Where will it be? When will it be used? for the purpose of what? So those are your questions. Again, all of your stuff is being posted to the Google Classroom, which is pulling up here. You have plenty of work. Today, I'm not assigning a new chapter and I'm not giving you any new questions. I want those of you who have fallen a little behind to catch up. So on Monday, my intention is for you to read chapter 5 and to answer questions on chapter 5 and to do the post reading on chapter 5. And we'll continue with these lessons through video on Tuesday. And that's it. So I hope you have a really good weekend. Stay healthy, stay well. And that's all for today. Bye.